Good afternoon. It is Thursday, June 29th, 2023. This is Jason Horak reporting on the ongoing adventures of the 1987 Dodge Daytona electric vehicle. Or I guess I should say the lack of adventures, based on the fact that it's been sitting here in the garage for quite some time now. There's a story behind that, and we'll get into that. But first, let me take a look around the car and just kind of show you where it's at. It is currently up on ramps, and the front tires have been removed. And over here on this side, we have a couple extra transmissions that are for 80s Daytonas. These are manual transmissions. One, I believe, is a 555, and I think the other one is, I'm not even sure. It's out of some car that I had parted out and took all the parts out of and threw out after it rusted away. These are two NetGain Warp 9 motors. Both of these motors do function. However, they are out of balance, and so they kind of make a little bit of a rough sound as they're going around. And the only way to fix that I know of is they have to be shipped back to Illinois to have them, I can't remember the name of the company now, I'm losing it, it's been a long time, but NetGain Motors is where I bought them from, and they send them to the company they work with in Illinois to actually do the reconditioning of the motors. And what they do is they take the rotor and put clay on it in various places to balance it out and make sure that it's running smooth. As part of the reconditioning process, they'll go ahead and probably paint them and clean them up and make them look nice again. It's fairly expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than buying a brand new motor. But the big hassle is shipping them from central New York to the middle of Illinois. It's just difficult for a person like me that doesn't have my own loading dock and stuff to do. So I got to get that figured out from a logistical standpoint. And, if there was a place that was local, somewhere in central New York that I could take them to and have them rebalanced, that would be ideal. I would clean them up myself and just take it there, but I don't know of any. I did contact a company called Auburn Armature up in Auburn, New York, and talked to them a little bit about possibly doing a rebalance and recondition on these motors, but they couldn't give me an idea of how much it would cost, and they wanted me to bring them one of the motors to check out and do an evaluation. And again, logistically, it's really hard for me to load a 140-pound motor into the passenger seat of my electric vehicle or in the trunk and haul it 40 miles away. Well, not quite, probably 30 something, but anyway, back to the car. As you can see, it has a lot of dust on it. It's been sitting out here, and I guess now is probably good time as any to talk about how long it's been out here. I last drove this car in August/September of 2019, and I believe I put it in here in October of 2019, put it up on the jack stands, put it up on the ramps, and to investigate an issue, and haven't ever moved it since. This is the New York State registration or inspection sticker. August of 2019 was the last time that it was inspected. I did replace the registration sticker and I've kept it registered and paid insurance on it all this time, but that's just because I'm too lazy to get it transferred off, and I want to keep my plates. So there it is. So as you can see, again, a lot of dust. We can probably draw ourselves a smiley face in the dust, and get some spiky hair. But yeah, it definitely needs a good cleaning for sure. When I parked it, I turned off the battery pack. So this big safety switch, when I pressed it down, we cut the pack essentially in half, and there's no complete circuit. So all the batteries have been independent, like just sitting on their own all this time. And, you know, my garage is not insulated. I don't have any kind of special stuff going on out here. So these batteries got frozen. They got cooked in the summer and frozen in the winter, well below freezing. And they've been sitting here. I think they look pretty good as far as the connections. Underneath the plexiglass here, I don't see any obvious signs of corrosion on the plates themselves. Seems like there might be a little bit on top of the bolt heads and stuff, but otherwise it looks pretty good. This main contact up there looks like it's a little bit rusted and corroded. So, I mean, I'm going to be taking all these things apart and cleaning them before I drive the car, because I also want to test all the batteries before I get this thing back on the road. But I just wanted to kind of make a video showing the state that this poor car has been sitting in for so long, and just kind of try to explain what had happened and why I wasn't driving it. First of all, it was not an electrical problem or a problem that is electric car related in any fashion. The issue was that the clutch pedal went slack. All of a sudden, I had no pressure, no back pressure on the clutch. It would just flop in the breeze, which is a problem, indicates that there's an issue. The clutch was not engaging. So I brought it in here to investigate, but only after driving it for another about 2 weeks in that condition. And that's kind of one of the magical things about an electric vehicle, a converted electric vehicle like this, with a manual transmission, is that technically you don't have to use the clutch. You can shift the transmission into any gear you'd like. You just have to kind of give it a little bit of time in between your shifts in order for the synchromeshes or whatever to kind of spin down, because you don't have any pressure on the electric or on the motor going into the transmission. When you take your foot off the accelerator, there's just no torque being put into it. And so it's just kind of, both of them are freely spinning and you can just kind of shift it. So anyway, I was able to drive it for a couple weeks, and mostly around town, just because I live in town and I have a 2-mile commute to work. So it wasn't really a big deal. And, but I wanted to get this problem fixed. Figured it wouldn't take that long, so I brought it into the garage here, put it up on the jack stands, put it up on the ramps, and went to investigate. And what I discovered, we'll go ahead and give you a shot here of it up on the jack stands and stuff, and then underneath. Sorry about the shaky cam action. So what I had discovered was that the clutch cable was just frayed and just torn up, which was weird, right? Because I don't know, maybe these things just go and break, who knows? But it's still connected. Like, it still has, I can still pull the pedal up and down with this thing. What the issue was this arm right here. You can see how I can move this freely with, like, a couple fingers, right? This was happening with the pressure plate and clutch attached. I could move this freely. There was no resistance at all. And so I think what was happening was every time I pushed on the clutch, this cable would just ream down through here, and it was trying to push and pull up on this, or actually, see, when you push in the clutch, it pulls up, right? So it would pull up, but then nothing would push it back down again because there was no pressure on it. And so whenever I would release the clutch, this cable would just kind of bunch up and wad in here and fray and get destroyed. So anyway, I knew that there was some problem inside, with the clutch itself, or the throwout bearing, or possibly the little fork that moves back and forth when you move this thing, which actually I can show you because I have it disassembled. Crawling around on the floor, my favorite activity. Okay, some light on here. Okay, so when I move this shift fork, it moves. Shift fork. It's not called a shift fork. When I move this arm here, it moves that little forky thing up there that pushes the throwout bearing to push on the pressure plate. That's its function. However, you can see it seems to be working just fine. So it's not broken. This is really firm. I can ream on this with all my strength and it doesn't do anything. So this doesn't seem to be broken. The throwout bearing itself seems to be fine. It was on here very securely. We actually broke one of the little tabs on the throwout bearing. Let me see if I can grab that here. Again, sorry for shaky cam motion. Grab it here. So this was the throwout bearing that was in there. And we broke this little, my uncle tried to help me take this apart. So this little clip goes around that there to kind of make this thing, this clip on here, and it sort of holds it on there. But just trying to get it off, we couldn't figure out how to get it off cleanly, and we ended up breaking it. So just this side of the clip got broken off. So obviously this throwout bearing I can't use anymore, but it spins freely, and it was attached very securely. So I don't know what happened and why it hasn't had an issue. It's entirely possible that the pressure plate broke or something. I don't know. I'm going to find out when I take that apart. But anyway, the story goes from back in 2019, to take the motor from the transmission, from the bell housing, you see how it has these little screw holes, there's bolt holes all around here, and then on the motor, I have a special plate that mounts that Netgain Warp 9 motor to this bell housing with a bunch of bolts around it. Well, it turned out that the top bolt, which goes into this hole, I think I can't really get up here with my finger, but up there, just wouldn't come out. It was stuck. It was rusted up. I drive this car all winter long through the salt and the slush and all that crap, because sometimes my gas car is broken and this is my only vehicle. I got to get to work, so it happens. I do try to not drive it during the winter whenever possible, but inevitably it happens. The car's quite rusty down here for an 87. A lot of it's surface rust. And a lot of it is actually just from sitting in here in this garage for 4 years now. But anyway, it sat here with the motor hanging from this one bolt for 4 years. I just lost my interest in dealing with mechanical things. For full disclosure, I'm a computer programmer. I don't like getting my hands dirty. I don't like dealing with rust and grime and grease. That's just not my bag. I would much rather take my car to a shop and have them just take care of it and fix it up, make sure it was working perfectly, and off I go. But in this case, I am the shop. I built my own car, so I have to service my own car. And while I could have taken this to my local shop, and kind of walked them through the process of like changing the clutch or trying to research this issue, I didn't figure it'd be a big deal. And it really wouldn't be, except I couldn't get that bloody bolt out. It just wouldn't come out. So anyway, I, at that point, kind of had lost the motivation to work on cars in general, and, set about my life doing other things, working on other projects, working on work things, etc. But this last few weeks, I don't know, I've gotten kind of a revitalization of the EV bug, and I decided to come out here and try that bolt again, and by golly, I finally got it loose. So as you can see, over there is my Netgain Warp 9 motor sitting on my motorcycle jack that is just about perfect for lifting that thing up into place in my very limited space that I have to work with under the car here when I'm swapping the engine in and out. So anyway, it's there. It's ready for more work. And just as I'm looking at it from this angle, it does look like the pressure plate is flat as opposed to it being kind of like bowed out a little bit like it normally would be when it doesn't have any pressure on it. So I wonder if it is that the pressure plate broke or the clutch disintegrated or something. I don't know. So I'm going to be taking that apart and figuring out what's going on with that. I do have a brand new pressure plate and clutch set that and throwout bearing that I purchased in advance of this project. And yeah, we'll have to see where that goes. So anyway, just a quick tour of the rest of the underside here while we're at it. As you can see, lots of rust. It's been sitting there on the drive shaft all this time. That's, I'm sure, lovely for it to have the transmission suspended by just the drive shafts. But the issue is that my jack here that I used to have underneath to like hold this into position, it just keeps falling down on its own, and I don't have another jack stand and stuff, and I never put anything proper to like support this, so it's just been hanging here for 4 years. I think it can hang here a little bit longer until I get it fixed. Okay, so these are the high voltage wires that come from the Evnetics Soliton 1 and normally hook into the net gain warp 9 motor. There's only two, positive and negative. That's it. That's the wiring that makes the motor go. And they go back up in here to this side, which here says control to the motor. And so it's positive and negative. You can see that there's a little bit of corrosion here, just from getting wet, getting salt on it. You know, it's in the front of the car, gets exposed to lots of stuff. It does get a lot of airflow against here because it's just direct flow in from the front. But it also gets, you know, water in there. And anyway, so we've got some corrosion on this as well. And then you can see that these are the wires, the small wires here are your 12 volt that run the power to this thing, as well as some of these are the wires that go to the, this little cable here goes to the tachometer sensor, speed sensor for the motor, and, oops, sorry, and then, you know, some of these other wires connect to various things in the car. So this particular one here is the Ethernet cable. That's the data communications cable that just goes into a little router, or switch rather, that I have inside the car. It is a router, technically, a little wireless router. And then that's how I can connect to, you know, get data logging stuff. I can look at the web server that's in this to change the settings and all that kind of fun stuff. So that looks like it's survived reasonably well. It's sort of protected in this in this thing. This greasy stuff you see all over is WD-40, because I WD-40'd the hell out of everything down here, trying to get rid of some of the dust or rust rather, and you know, or at least saturate the rust with WD-40 to hopefully help hold things together. But anyway, so I got to get this guy cleaned up. That's one of my goals, is I'm going to take out all these screws and replace them with new screws, hopefully stainless steel ones, and some little tiny Nordlock washers if I can find them. And I might replace even the little ends on each of those cables just to make sure everything is nice and electrically sound with no shorts or weird corrosion buildup in between things. Yeah, so that's just the horn, kind of rusting away, the original horn. Leave over here. You can kind of see the mechanisms for the lights and stuff, but anyway, so that's just kind of a quick-ish overview of what's been going on. You know, why has the car been sitting out here collecting dust, and why I haven't been posting videos for a very long time. So I do need to get this all cleaned up and, you know, figure out what's going on with that pressure plate and clutch, get that replaced, and then get that part put back together. I'm going to go through all of the electrical connections. Everything is going to get, you know, a little bit of sanding done to make sure that the surfaces are all clean, and then put them back together and Same thing for all the batteries. And we'll fire it up and see if I can get it to at least move. My initial goal is just to get it to move down off of these ramps and turn it around so that the front of the car is facing out of the garage. That'll make it easier to work under here and stuff. Just give me some more room. And then I'm probably going to go through and do a full bottom balance of all the batteries. So let me go ahead and get up here. So the batteries, so all of these batteries need to be cleaned up. Again, I want to clean up all those contacts on there, make sure there's no corrosion anywhere. It doesn't really matter when it's just sitting here doing nothing. And even while you're charging, probably would be okay. There's not a whole lot of amps going through it. But when I'm pulling 500 to 1,000 amps into that motor for a hard acceleration, I want to make sure those contacts are clean. But anyway, so this here is just, this is the motor mount for the side of the other side of the motor, and I've just got it rotated around, flipped up here, kind of out of the way. It's not actually attached at the moment, but it does normally bolt in right down there. Kind of hard to see the lighting and stuff, but anyway, and this is the DC to DC converter. Hopefully still works. Haven't tested it. Power steering pump reservoir. This is the vacuum pump reservoir for the brakes, the power brakes. Yeah. Anyway, anything else that I can think of? Oh yes, so my Manzanita PFC 40 charger also had crapped out right around the same time as I had the problem with the clutch, and rather than dealing with it, I just stuck it on the shelf and I put in my spare, which is the PFC 50, I think. Wow, it's been so long, I honestly don't even remember. Isn't that sad? Yeah, PFC 50. Through the dust and grime, you can see it in there. It's the much larger unit with better airflow and stuff, but with my setup and my charger buddy, it's just a plug and play operation to swap out the two things. It's not even a, it's two plugs, power plug and the plug to the battery pack. Anyway, so I'm gonna have to deal with that, take a look at that charger, see if I can figure out what's going on with it. Most likely it's that same issue that I had before with that one part that just became unsoldered or something. But anyway, I do have a lot of work cut out for me. But the takeaway here, and one of the main reasons why I'm actually filming a YouTube video again, is the Electric Vehicle Converters Convention from EVTV, formerly operated by Jack Rickard, who unfortunately passed away in 2020. His former business partner, Brian Noto, and Jackie Rickard, his daughter, have continued the tradition. They've kept EVTV alive, and they're going to be hosting another Electric Vehicle Converters Convention in September of 2023. So my goal is to go to that. I was there at the first one in 2011, and by golly, I'm going to be there again, even if I have to tow my car not working. But I'm hoping it's going to work by that point, and I'm going to have it all put back together and fix this clutch issue and so forth. Yeah. Anyway, that's where we're at the moment. Thank you for watching, and have yourself a wonderful day.